Today I'm talking about 6 must-have hand tools for your wood shop, and it's probably not the hand tools you're thinking of. I'm Nick Harrison from Rocky River Woodworks, here to help you be successful in woodworking. So I'm talking about 6 hand tools that I think is good to have and are must-have tools for your wood shop. Now what I'm not going to talk about is every other blog post and video on YouTube that say one of the must-have hand tools is a good set of chisels. Nothing can beat a good set of chisels, or a good block plane. Nothing can beat, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm dumbing it down. More basic and more simple than that, but they are must-have. If you're like myself and most of the people that are woodworkers nowadays, you're a hybrid woodworker, which means you do some hand tool woodworking and some power tool woodworking. Now, most of the woodworking community is moving towards power tool woodworking simply because today is a fast-paced environment. In order to keep up with the times, you have to keep up with production and speed. Machines help you do that. Another thing is, generally speaking, people are not willing to pay for hand tool woodworking. That's a lot of time, that's a lot of money that people need to pay you for that type of work. So hybrid woodworking comes into play because power tools and machinery comes into play. But these are my top 6 must-have hand tools for the wood shop. And yes, I'm dumbing it down. Tool number 1, screwdrivers. Obvious, I know, but specifically a flathead screwdriver. I mainly use this not for undoing flathead screws because that's a thing of the past, and let's be honest, flathead screws suck. What I do use it for is on prying things, wedging things, striking wood, pretty much everything else. Not only a flathead screwdriver, but a mini screwdriver set. And what I'm talking about is these little tiny ones. They have, flatheads, Phillips heads, hex heads, Torx heads, all that stuff. These come in super helpful because most little components and parts and battery packs and little tiny aggravating things on machines, on your tools, require small screwdriver heads. So these are super helpful. They can also get into places that a regular screwdriver head cannot. So flathead screwdriver and small miniature screwdriver set as number 1 tool for a must-have tool in your shop. Number 2 on the list of must-have tools is Allen wrenches. Now, you're not a car mechanic, you're a woodworker. I know. Allen wrenches, or Allen keys, sometimes people call it, are super helpful to have. And the reason is because a lot of your machines, a lot of your tools take these Allen wrench heads on them. Now, a lot of tools and machines will come with a pre-sized Allen wrench. Those are aggravating to me because you have a whole drawer or a pocket full of them in your shop of all different sizes. You might have 5 of the same size. You can't ever keep up with them. You lose track of them. I end up just throwing them away. Right here, I have a set of pretty much every size that I need in metric and standard, or metric and imperial, and it's just nice to have around because you do use these more often than not. Even though woodworking is usually not mechanical, this is more of a mechanical tool. They are very nice and very helpful to keep around. Tool number 3 is pliers. Now, you can have all different kinds of pliers, channel locks, electrical pliers, snippers, whatever. 2 types that you really need. Slip joint pliers, which are the kind that have this little, they're like channel locks, but they can only go in 2 different positions, have a rounded bell on them, and then needle nose pliers. Now, this, frankly, I use it for getting nails and screw heads out, moving hardware out, grabbing, pinching things, because that's what pliers are for. Also turning nuts and bolts if you don't have the right size wrench, or if you're like me, you don't feel like digging for the right size wrench. Slip joint pliers are nice to have. Needle nose pliers, what I use these for are getting into small places. I build a lot of small wooden boxes, small things. You drop a screw, you can't ever find it. The little track at the front of your table saw, you drop something in there, you can't get it out. Needle nose pliers come in handy. These are also good because they are so small, is tracing inside of a hole. If you're doing some sort of template, you have a board on top with a board on the bottom and a hole, and you're wanting to trace that out, you can start your hole with that. I know that's probably not the technical way to do it, but that's another use for needle nose pliers. All these tools that I'm talking about today, by the way, do not have to be expensive. They do not have to be name brand like some people will tell you, get you a good set of whatever for $155. That's not what I'm talking about. You can get all this stuff for $7 a piece on Amazon. And as a matter of fact, there's links to all these down below in the description where you can pick up some for yourself. Number 4 must-have tool for your shop is a hammer. Now, I know, you're a woodworker, you probably have hammers. I'm not talking about a steel hammer. I'm talking about a weighted mallet. So I say hammer, but this is what I'm talking about. This has sand in it to dampen the blow, and it's made of rubber, a little bit more lightweight. The reason why I say this is because yes, you're a woodworker, you have a hammer. How often do you actually use a regular steel hammer, like a framing hammer? You probably don't use it that much. Nowadays, people don't drive nails by hand. They have a nail gun or a trim gun or a screwdriver or glue or the various other joinery methods, so you're not using a hammer that much. A weighted mallet, however, I personally use almost every single day in the shop. What I use this for is just minor adjustments. If you're trying to get two corners of a cabinet together, they don't come flush, tap, tap, this thing comes in super helpful. Another use for the weighted mallet is persuasion. And what I mean by that is if you're making something small or even something large that has really tight and precise joinery, it might not go in smoothly the first time. A little bit of persuasion can be done with the rubber mallet. The reason this is the ideal tool for the job is that it doesn't mar the surface. It doesn't dent and ding and scratch the surface of your workpiece. You can just tap it with the weighted mallet to get that joint to sit snugly to satisfy your mind when you're making those joints on those projects. Number 5 are utility knives. I probably have 10 of these. I don't use them all, but they end up everywhere. The reason I use these are for striking wood, sometimes trimming wood. Now, I'm not saying replace your chisel with a utility knife, but if you have a really small fiber or something that's just barely hanging off the edge, you can use this to slightly carve the material away. This can cut through 1 wood fiber at a time, 2 wood fibers at a time. These come in helpful for that. Another thing is you're always getting consumables in. Sandpaper, wood glue, screws, whatever the case is, they come in packages. Utility knives are always at my arm's reach so that I can use them to open those packages. Another thing is as you progress with technology in woodworking, doing laser cutting and CNC stuff, you're gonna be using stencils and masking films and vinyl and overlays and stuff like that. Whenever you have a piece and you overlay your mask, you use this to trim, or I use this to trim the excess off. I use these all the time. Again, obviously there's 2 different types. I consider this more of a razor knife or a box knife with just a retractable blade like that. But then you have these breakaway utility knives that you can break off each blade as you need. And again, depends on what you're doing. If you're a woodworker that also does leather work or metal work or plastics or vinyl or whatever, you're gonna find yourself using these more often than not. The 6th and final tool that I use in my shop that I consider is a must-have is a firm blade putty knife. It has to be a firm blade. I use this for probably more than what it's supposed to be used for, but it is super helpful. Prying open paint cans, prying open stains, finishes, lacquers, shellacs, this gets used for that. If I need to pry off hardened wood glue, after the squeeze out comes out, the wood glue hardens up, this gets scraped off. If I need to scrape off residue, if I need to scrape off finish, this gets used. And then of course the firm blade putty knife can be used for what it's actually designed to be used for, spreading wood filler, spreading glue, spreading bonds, adhesives. I also use the back of it to close cans, and I use this lastly to remove old hardware, old screw heads, nail heads. Very versatile tool, as simple, as dumb as it may be. You need one of these if you're doing any kind of woodworking. So those are the 6 must-have tools in my shop. I know they're probably different than what you're used to seeing on these types of videos and types of discussions, but they are very necessary if you're doing any kind of woodworking, at least in my experience. If you found this video helpful, be sure to hit the like button, click the subscribe button, and ring the notification bell so that you will be alerted every time I post a new video. You can find this discussion and more on my website at www.rockyriverwoodworks.com. Take care.